Hello, everyone. Let me make sure that all my audio is good right now. Welcome. Good evening. And for some people, it's going to be good morning or good afternoon. If you're tuning in for the first time, this is the La Maison de Rouge Monday night weekly live broadcast. I am your host, Lucy Sweetkill, one half of the duo that is La Maison de Rouge. A little bit about who we are. LMDR is dedicated to expanding the BDSM experience by discussing, educating, and informing our audiences about the intersections of kink, wellness, sexuality, spirituality, and social activism. We aim to create a safe space for discussing these topics, as well as providing an avenue for our guests to share their stories and experiences. Thank you again for joining us. Tonight, our guest is a world traveler with pursuits of deep understanding in practices of Eastern spirituality. Her intrepid exploration of consciousness began with her 20-year-long experience as an extreme athlete, skydiver, base jumper, snowboarder, shark diver, and freediver. During the past decade, she has been a full-time Domme, a sexological worker in NYC and internationally. She has gained invaluable insights into the makeup of fear, courage, vulnerability, and surrender, and has helped countless men and women get in touch with their deeper selves. Please welcome, pronoun she, her, Rina Trevi. How are you? Rina, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to speak with you again here.
So you are in a beautiful setting. It's, you're all the way across the world right now. And do you mind sharing where you're located right now?
I'm in Bali. We have some greenery around here. So Bali, Indonesia. I was lucky to spend my winter here, but I'm about to return to New York City.
Awesome. So I've got lots of questions for you and I think our audience will have some really great questions for you too, because I really want to ask how you got to this point, because there's a very important transition that you made as a pro-dom into this sort of new line of work that's a little different. It's an evolution. So can you explain to our audience like where that transition happened and why, and where you are now with that?
Yes, it's a really amazing question. It's really related to the way I am in general. Like since I was a child, I was the kind of person who was always trying to dig for something new, something else, something different. Like I was never fully satisfied in one place where I am. Like I always felt, okay, but what's there? What's the point? What's more? Why am I doing this? There was always some inquiry happening automatically within myself. And as I became a Domme, I had no idea why I became a Domme. I was 23, and it was just a strong pull to explore this human sexuality in this way and to explore a different side of myself, because I grew up in very conservative Russian background, post-Soviet, where women had to be more modest, more shy and quiet, more submissive, and all of a sudden I was exploring a dominant side of myself. And as I started doing this, it felt really thrilling, exciting, new for me, really different. I felt like it's a whole new world out there. And it was constantly shifting. Like I started when I was 23, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just following what my mentors were showing me. And my mentors were also not as deep and not well, like understanding this whole topic of BDSM in the dungeon where I work. They were just pretty much making living, and they were kind of happy where they are. But my character, my avatar, the person I am, is like constantly looking to understand what is it all about? Where can I go with this? Why am I doing this? What kind of what is the impact that I'm doing to others? And I kept on questioning. So the transition didn't happen overnight. It just feels like my whole life is like a giant transition into some new level of understanding things. And my domination journey was constantly evolving. Initially, I was just part of the house where I was mechanically repeating things that I was told to do. Like the owners of the dungeon would say, your client will tell you what they want and you just do it. And they would give me a list of things. I want this, this, this. And I would just repeat. I just didn't know. And I was just exploring. And then after a year, I left the dungeon world. I mean, I left the dungeon space where I was and was freelancer. And that's when I started to think, now I'm free. So I can choose what I like to do. So I started to question, but what do I like then? Because I don't want to just repeat mechanically. And I was curious. So I started to explore and I started to find things. And then what I like was changing. Initially, it was all about more being a seductress. It felt like it suited me well as a Russian girl kind of role. It felt a bit more familiar. Like I can just tease this guy and he will just give me anything I want. So that made me feel like a princess, and I felt worshipped and adored. And later I started to question, okay, sensation play, erotic domination, teasing denial, what else is there? And at some point I reached my limit in this realm, so I tried exploring more sadistic side of me. I discovered like, wow, there is a sadist out there. I want to go for pain. How can I go deeper into pain? I'm tired of teasing these guys. I want to hurt them. So I was going heavily into pain. I was going for a lot of cock and ball torture, ball busting. That was a lot for me. And then impact play. I had a very sadistic store on clips for sale. I was selling a lot of clips, which had a lot of sadism in it. And at some point, I also burned out. I felt, okay, what's the point? These guys, they want more from me. What am I doing to them? Why all this? And then at some point, it became quite bloody, quite intense. Like I was really hitting their limits, reaching my limits with this. So I was questioning what's next. So that's just how it started to go further. I started to see what is available in this world. Why am I here? What can I do with this? And should I quit? Should I try something different? So I started to explore. And that was the time I was exploring spirituality. I was going to Asia every winter to meditate, to have some retreats. Initially, it was like a break from my sadistic world. I wanted something opposite. I felt like this is good. And I have my part of me that wants to express something dramatic, sadistic. And then the other part of me that is soft. It wants to meditate. It wants to be like a Shakti, a goddess in the nature, in the jungle. So I had like polarities out there, and that was the point I felt, but is it really possible to bring these two together? How can I do this? Because what else is out there in the BDSM realm that I haven't tried yet? Well, how far can I go with this? In which direction? I cannot keep hurting guys. I don't want to keep on teasing guys. Fetish became a bit boring as well. And what can I do? And this is kind of when it started. It was 2016 when I first announced that I would like to combine spirituality with BDSM, but it wasn't like this. I didn't know how. And it wasn't easy to find anybody who would tell me how. It was not many people who, there was some movement happening. I could sense that in New York, many Dommes were curious about healing. They were taking psychology classes. They were really like going into like trying to help clients to move and evolve and release stress, but there was no clear information on how can I make my play more holistic, more healing, more of help to a client, to get rid of shame, addiction, to feel empowered. How can I do this? I don't want to create somebody who will be a junkie and a slave for me and just follow me like on the hands and knees like all the time. I don't want this. I want to have some empowerment, some beauty in it. So I was just kind of trying this, try this. Let me try. How can this happen? How can this happen? And yes, next 5 years was the slow evolution. I cannot say there was a dramatic shift. It felt like it was slowly moving every year, something new, every year, something new. I would feel like, oh, this year I can change this, I can change a bit that. So and then very gradually I came to where I am right now, and it's not stopping. I feel like it's just constant change, and the key is like to dive into it because I just my personality. I cannot be staying in one place. It has to evolve somewhere. So this is quite long answer.
No, that's a perfect answer, and I think that that's really beautiful, and I really love that you know, you're always evolving, and I think we're all always evolving in general, and really embracing that, you know, really embracing yourself and listening to yourself of like, well, I want to try this, I want to change this, I want to try that. And I think that's really beautiful that a lot of people could do more of, right? So now you're at a place where so, you know, you said that you were trying to combine BDSM and spirituality. Do you feel like you're at this place now with the line of work you're doing now? And can you explain to us, what are you doing now? What is that? What does that combination look like?
Yeah, I wanted to come back to what you just said about that we are constantly changing and evolving, and it's good to embrace it. And it's true, you cannot be in the same place in life. We are wired to change because life is change. And I felt like for me, what I've discovered about conscious change is when you make a proper intention for your change. Because change can happen without you being aware of it. Something just shifts you and pulls you in some direction. But in what I've learned, the first thing I've learned in spirituality is that intention makes a huge difference. You might not know how to get there, but if you create a certain intention, like this is the direction I'm moving my life, this is my main dream, my main ambition, my main feeling, like a general direction, like how will I want to evolve in life? Where does a change will take me? And when you make an intention, this is where life seems to offer you exactly the tools that you need to accomplish it. So that was the key for me. I wanted to have more holistic, more healing direction in my work. And generally, I made like a strong, like hard calling that whatever I do in life, I wanted to bring me closer to truth, to freedom, to love. And that's kind of like a compass that was guiding me throughout this time, because it's really easy to get lost. There are so many pools out there. Life is so like diverse, so many different like things. I want to try this, but this like nice, this client, this job, this course, and it's like I feel like it's really nice to have this intention that this is eventually this is my key direction, and I want everything else to be aligned with this. So this is as far as the intentionality, and this was the compass that helped me to evolve my work. And wasn't an easy path because there were so many different pulls and temptations going on. And as far as the Domme work, it's really amazing work, but it also has a lot of challenges. Like it's really easy to go off track, like burnout, addictions, and getting involved with kind of clients that are not serving like the higher purpose. Yeah. And doing things for the wrong reasons, like greed can be a big one because there are temptations to kind of keep the wealth around. Yeah, that's true. I had to admit it was there, as I also grew up in less like wealthy households, like, and there is like all this opportunity, power, money are really big. It's a really big temptation for all of us. And this work has a lot of this to offer. There is a sense that, wow, this man will do anything for me. And like, and that was something to overcome because it was important for me to acknowledge, wait, what am I here for? Why am I doing this? So the intentionality was what was helping me to evolve. And how it evolved was a lot about bringing the elements of Tantra into BDSM play. It was started from intention, and then it continued with rituals. And rituals were also helping to clear the space in the head and kind of create a certain like ambience, certain atmosphere. I would make sure the space that I create has this ritualistic feel to it. I would create an altar of full of items that were really inspiring me. I would put certain kind of music that would put me in the right space. And when I would explore some kink, some fantasy, some fetish with the client, I would start from a ritual, like a ritual of emptying your head, a ritual of getting in tune with yourself, of breathing together, and slowing down in general, because there's a pull like, I have a fantasy, a passion, I want to just dive into it. And it's great, but rituals like this initially help a lot to kind of slow things down and to get attuned to subtle details about your fantasy. And that helps to enter some more like subtle dimensions of reality, like an altered space kind of journey where you are not only tuned into the gross elements, like this is the puddle, this is me getting aroused, but more like subtle things like, oh, but when she touches me like this very like motherly sensation I'm feeling, and I feel warm and I feel safe. So then someone can feel more subtle elements. So this is when it started to become more interesting for me, because I could sense so many different worlds in one world. Like there's a gross world of classic dungeon scene, but there is also something subtle happening in the background. So I would try to bring my submissive into this state where he can also be aware that, like, no, it's not just me like using nipple clamps on him. There is so much more happening on the background of this. And for me, it was important for him to become aware of this like second reality that is happening, like more, so he can be more aware of what's happening in the subconscious world and what kind of messages this subconscious world wants to bring. And I find that once you discover deeper messages from your subconscious world, you are less prone to get addicted to this kind of play, or less prone to kind of make wrong decisions, choices, or any kind of like issues that are happening for people when they dive fully in the BDSM world, or get injured, or go too far, do too much, or have some kind of shame afterwards. So it really helps to stay on track and see, I'm doing it to explore myself. I'm doing it so I can find, I can be more in tune with myself. I'm doing it because I want my life to be generally more harmonious. So this really helps me to understand myself better. So that brings a lot of clarity into everything that you do in life, and it brings more direction, and brings more, like, even when you go outside of the dungeon space, if you have the same attitude of feeling into yourself deeper, then you can sense more how your marriage is working, what kind of satisfaction your work brings you. Am I in the right place? Am I doing something that feels aligned with me, or am I actually lying to myself and I'm actually doing something for wrong reasons? So yes, the inquiry and the rituals, I feel like these were two main keys that were really helpful. And as far as how it evolved in the practical sense, as far as the tools that I use or how I do my sessions, it was also changing. I recognized that I need less tools to create a really bright experience. So there was a lot of simplification happening over time, because the ritual is something really slow and subtle. And there was a recognition that, I don't need to go really far to create a certain mind space. And I was simplifying my tools over time. I was using less and less and less, until at some point I recognized, wait a minute, I don't need to even overdress myself, because it's really hard on my body, like wearing corsets and latex too much. Like I recognized, look, I can be a bit more simple with this. I don't need to go so far. And then eventually bringing me to where I am right now, things got so simplified that I picked one main tool that I'm using, which pretty much brings me and my client exactly where we need to get, which is rope. I learned about rope a few years ago. I mean, I've used simple rope techniques throughout my career, but I've really learned that rope as the language, as the key tool for bringing certain states of consciousness, like just 3 years ago. And I started to learn more and more and more. And right now I can call myself a shibari master, because I've been learning from different masters who practice the art of shibari. And I still use a bit of this tool, a bit of that tool. Sometimes I use some box play, sensation play, some nipple tools, and little impact play and pinwheel. And there are some tools that go in addition to rope, but rope is like the anchor, the key. And I feel really inspired about rope, because it's, in a way, it's really simple. It's just rope, and at the same time, a simple rope tie can create such an intimacy, such healing, such emotional release, such safety. Like you can take someone in so many different places within themselves just using rope. And so these days I am really like staying in tune with rope work, and this is my key work as far as the session work goes. This is really where I'm practicing the art of power exchange, fantasy play, and healing in this conjunction with rope.
That's amazing. You kind of just simplified all the tools to something that you really felt very connected with in your work. So explain to us your new site, vulnerability, vulnerability coaching. What is someone going to get from it? Or who are the type of people you're trying to reach out to, right? Because it's not the typical, oh, I'm going to have a BDSM session, right? It's not about that, right? So, who is going to benefit the most from this? Who are you seeking to connect with your work?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. And also another reason I feel rope is so inspiring, because it allows me to access different kinds of people. Before I used to work only with men, and they were fetishizing me, and they had like a strong kind of BDSM related fantasies. While now I still have some of them. It's amazing that I have some of the oldest clients that stayed with me from the very beginning. I'm really happy about this too. But right now it's really expanded because I was curious, like, okay, if I announce this is what I do, ropes, what kind of people will reach out to me? And I found that, first of all, lots of women. It's incredible how I feel like I'm now even more, having seen more women than men. And it's really great for me for once, because I needed to have like an opportunity to work with women. And this is exactly where I found it. And people who reach out to me, they are having like-minded ideas about life in general, like the opportunity, the idea that we can be more free, more loving, more harmonious versions of ourselves. So the idea behind my session is that by connecting closer and intimately to yourself, you can become more whole. And by becoming more whole within yourself, then this is when you become generally more happy and more harmonious individual in life. And this is where you can serve better yourself and the world around you. Because generally, as humans these days, we are very disconnected from ourselves. We are going too much in the external world. We are going too much towards where society, where we live, pulls us. Our conditioning dictates our choices. For me, that was one of the hardest truths to discover in my spiritual choice, that who makes choices? Who is the one deciding? Who is the one driving this vehicle? And I could see that, wait a minute, this is my conditioning. This is where my society brought me. This is where my parents brought me. This is what they told me when I was little, this little thing. This is how I should do it. And I still do it, although it has nothing to do with my new reality. I'm just following some inner matrix that was programmed in me when I was growing up. Or some kind of old generational patterns of my family that needed to survive, and my old generation, they had to fight to survive. And I would find myself being in this very anxious mode in life, because there is a sense that I need to survive, but it has nothing to do with my reality. I would be watching palm trees on Bali, and I would be in a survival mode. My whole body would be so tense. And I discovered this in myself, but I also discovered it in all the people around me. Like, wow, do we want to live life like this, in this stressful mode, in the survival mode? Do we want to keep all the aggression stuck in us? Do we want to have this all outdated patterns and belief systems within ourselves? How do we function when we live from this place? And I recognize that we don't live in a happy world if we function like this. We stay in a relationship where we don't want to be. We're staying with work that we don't want to do. And what can we bring to the world if we are like this? What can we give our children if we stay like this to the planet? And I started to see things in this perspective, and I recognized what we really need is to connect to ourselves deeper, and don't have so many opportunities. Well, luckily we now do, because it seems like the world of mindfulness, meditation, consciousness, and healing is becoming more mainstream, which is great to see, isn't it? Like how before, maybe like 10 years ago, the meditation centers were more empty than they are right now. It seems like every city has yoga, mindfulness, like emotional release, healing therapy, all kinds of shadow work becomes a trendy thing to talk about. So it's really great that people recognize the need to access themselves. And I find that my work is something that really helps to tune into yourself. And as I use ropes, it's not me controlling somebody to do what I want. It's actually me putting people in touch with themselves. And while putting them in touch with themselves, I'm just inviting them inward. Like I put rope around the body. I can be like fiery move, but the fire is like, hey, enter yourself, feel yourself, who you are right now, what's happening. Get out of your head, feel your body, and the body has so much to share. A lot of people release rage, tears. A lot of people have some tensions in the body that they release while they're in the rope journey, and it can be deeper insights. And they feel like, wow, for example, like actually, I see that I'm giving myself too much to my family, but I don't give myself enough rest. I don't give myself enough self-expressions. So it's really not uncommon that like those who journey with ropes with me, they start getting in touch with this repressed aspects of themselves, and they can see where their creativity wants to flow. They can see what they really long for, and they can have lots of different insights. And it's basically like embracing your shadows, like the aspects of yourself that you're denying. And we all we all get stuck in certain kind of identity where this is how I am and this is who I am in this world, but there is so much more to us. So it gives like an opportunity to become more whole, to embrace different pieces of themselves. And to conclude this, it's just recently I also had a rope journey with the master that I really feel inspired about. And he has this way of really breaking me to pieces. Like in rope, I feel like, oh, I'm totally falling apart. And then I see so many pieces of myself. There is a part of me that is anxious, but there is a part of me that is aggressive. There is a part of me that wants to embrace the slut archetype, or there is a part of me who is ashamed of this idea. There is part of me that loves to be a woman. There is part of me that hates to be a woman. I see like so many pieces of myself. Wow, I'm everything of this. Wow. And then he like comes to me and he just like grabs me by the hair, pulls the rope, and he says, there is nothing of you that I don't love. And I would be like, wow, can I tell this to myself? Like, it's not like he's as a person telling me, Rina, as a person, that was just part of the flow, that he saw that I am fragmented to pieces and I'm navigating through them. And he told me there is nothing of you that I don't love. And I felt like, wow, can I give this to myself? Can I give the same expression to those whom I'm tying? And that really gives me so much inspiration to kind of fall in love with different aspects of humanness, the different aspects of who we are. And I feel like this really is my driver now. What I want to bring to myself and to others, like this wholeness, this self-love, self-care, like recognizing who you are, all the pieces of yourself, and loving them.
That's a really amazing, especially your last story of that, like your own experience. I love it. Like, it's so, you are transitioning into a place that feels more authentic to you. And that's always an amazing thing. And I love that you've kind of tried all these things with no judgment, right? Just like, let me try the tease thing, this maybe the good Russian girl, and then let me try this. And you're collecting all this information and all these things, and you're trying out so much to see what do you really value and what do you feel connected to. And you don't know that until you try it, right? You don't know that until you explore. And then kind of offering this for other people to explore themselves too, with the tools of like rope work and other things too.
Yes. And I really encourage people generally. I don't have any like overly positive or negative opinion about BDSM. I feel like it's a great tool. And I'm so happy I took this path. It gave me so much. So right now I feel like what's left out of my old world with Dungeon and Leather and a bunch of other tools is that I really want to invite others to explore it, and explore it safely, consciously, explore it with like-minded partners, because it brings a lot. It brings a lot of beauty in your life, playfulness, experience of something really different, unique, extraordinary. And this is what's really left from that world for me, is me encouraging others and how to explore it. I really feel exploration is a beautiful word when it comes to this world, and this is what I've been doing recently. I have on the online course, which is designed to encourage people who don't know much about BDSM world or know just one kind of narrow realm where they are, but to actually open up horizons and explore, like, hey, this is the femdom world, this is the world of like fetishes, this is the world of torture, sadism, all these things. And this is how you explore, this is how you navigate, this is how you create a scene, this is how you choose a partner. So all these insights over 10 years of being a pro dom and traveling like the States and offering all kinds of sessions to clients, I really feel inspired to share how to explore those things safely and beautifully and with the right intention.
Yeah, it seems like you're also making it a little more accessible for those who are maybe turned off by the leather, the whips, the chains, right? That can scare people, like the darkness of it. It's something that I've heard many people where they're just like, oh, but it seems so intense. It seems so scary, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty is BDSM has such a wide faceted of looks and feels, and you're bringing like this other, you're bringing another view of it. Like BDSM doesn't have to be so like dark and dungeon and scary. It can be so transformative. It can be light. It doesn't have to be this like whips and chains only, and it's also okay if you just like whips and chains. Like if you only like whips and chains, there's definitely people for you for that.
Exactly. And then just do it safely, mindfully, and it's wonderful. This is what you love, embrace it, and just do it well, because also there are lots of physical dangers there if you don't do it right. So it's also part of my agenda is to share how to use those tools in a safe manner, so this way you're left healthy and safe afterwards.
So can you explain your online course? What are just like, what are they and who are they for, and kind of the gist of what they will include if someone does sign up for it?
Yes, the BDSM course combines general knowledge of everything I've learned throughout this 10 years of exploring BDSM and Tantra together. And who is this for? This course can be amazing for somebody who is already a player, somebody who played for something. They have like some kind of kink and play, they enjoyed it, but they asking, okay, what's next? What's this for? How can I expand it? What else can I do? What else can I learn? What else can I understand? How can I go deeper into it? Or with somebody who never played at all and was afraid and felt like, well, just like you said, it's intimidating, it's dark. What if it makes me a bad person? So this also answers a lot of questions for such person. And finally, it's for somebody who is from more spiritual and Tantra worlds, because I have two backgrounds of two circles of people around me, those who are more like a city kind of like modes, more like exploring kink and play, but there are also people who are from more spiritual world who are exploring meditation, mindfulness practices. And those who explore mindfulness practices are great candidates for my course, because it's one thing you explore mindfulness in the cave where you sit and meditate and then you have no distractions and everything is then. But then you come back, it's too easy, and then you come back to the real world and like, wow, but do I deny my world? Do I have to cut my real world so I can stay in my meditative state? And I feel like Tantra is about weaving together. It's actually the world from Sanskrit is woven together. It's weaving together the real world of like work, family, relationships, play to the spiritual dimension. So that's basically my attempt to connect the reality of this dark shadow exploration and kinky fun play together with practices of mindfulness. So I'm also very inspired to bring this course to those who are in spiritual realms, because they're very much attuned to what mindfulness and spirituality about, but they're not sure how to connect it to BDSM kind of practices. But lots of people have inclination, will probably use it, Domme, know that. So often people come to you, those from total vanilla backgrounds, and say, I have this fantasy, this is what I want to explore. I have this kink, I have this fetish. So, and so many people deny an opportunity to dive into it. So my course is step-by-step instructions of why this is great for you, how to do it to make it great, and what kind of different aspects you can go into. So it starts from a very background information of why BDSM kink, why this is actually really healthy, how a little bit of history about it, how it started, and then all kinds of directions you can take, what BDSM means, what are the different aspects of it, what kind of practices are available out there, and then slowly going into psychology, like why are we driven into it, what are the approaches in different psychology, how can you do it in conjunctions with Jungian psychology, with Jack Morin psychology, with Mendel's practices that are different psychologists who were already exploring it, and they were offering some insights. So I brought a lot of this to the table. Different archetype work, because there is a lot of archetypal interactions happening on the background of what we do. Different archetypal sides of ourselves can come up in the process. And then it's good to see like a bigger picture. There are what kind of interplay that is happening underneath the surface. And finally, I bring it to the tantric world, which is more shamanic and mystical side of the course, where we explore consecration when you offer the fruits and merits and results of your action to the divine consciousness. And then divine archetypes, what kind of more tantric archetypes, gods and goddesses that are playing on the background. And then shamanic descent and ascent. There is a term shamanic descent, for example, in the spiritual world, when you are kind of consciously going into the underworld, so going deep, deep, deep to the very roots of your very human kind of needs, like our raw human emotions and your raw human desires. And this is called shamanic descent, when you are consciously choosing to dive in those deep underworlds. And shamanic ascent is when you want to kind of melt in all the divinity, love and light and meditation, and both realms are available in our BDSM interaction. It's interesting to look at it from this perspective. So this way you can consciously choose what journey you want to embark yourself on. And you know why you are embarking yourself on this journey and what kind of benefits you get out from the ascending journey, from the descending journey. And then rituals and symbolism is also part of tantric journey, recognizing why symbols are important, recognizing why archetypes are important. How can you create a personalized ritual that really resonates the most with your type of play? So this is my favorite part of the course, is at the very end, but it's important that I can bring somebody there step by step. So you know the very fundamental background of play, like what is this more concrete steps, what is the safety. There is a lot of big chapter on partnership and safety, how to choose the right partner, how to communicate, consent. For me, this is like very simple and obvious thing, but of course beginners have to understand why consent is so important. How can you get verbal consent, but how can it be done in body language, for example? And then how to navigate the safe scene, how to use tools safely, how to use things safely psychologically, so you don't go into becoming more ashamed or addicted to this. So we explore this before we go into the world of Tantra, which was my journey. I started with fundamental things, BDSM, whips, chains, this is how to use them, and then go in psychology, and then finally diving into Tantra. And this is pretty much my journey into the BDSM world put together in this 10-week course. So the course is a 10-week journey, gives some weeks are a bit shorter, maybe 1 or 2 hours. Some weeks are a bit 4 hours of time that you devote to these practices, of course, depending on how much you want to play with this, how much practice you want to give it to. And it's something that you do in your own time. We recorded the material all over the world, and it's professionally recorded in Bali, New York City, and Thailand. And it gives you an opportunity to kind of see all these practices in beautiful places and expand your horizons on this. And you can do it at your own time, which is, I think it's great, because you can be in any time zone. And you can be watching videos, audios, reading texts, having some external links, and practicing, participating in the forum, giving some vulnerable answers to certain questions there, and connecting with me, because the course gives more options for me to interact with, either answering questions in the forum, or actually some different packages involve me directly communicating and discussing personalized approach to someone's fantasy and whatever is their desires.
I think that's amazing. It seems like you created a course that helps build more intention in an area that sometimes people just do because of desire. They kind of like, I hit this thing about myself, I desire it, so I'm just going to go do it. And then you lose all the intention, you lose all the purpose. And so then you end up losing sometimes you end up losing all the benefits, right? Maybe there's that instant benefit after doing something like doing a kinky scene, but then you lose all of that because then shame could come in and all this other stuff. And it seems like you're really laying this out in a way where people can be more educated, more intentional, more knowledgeable, and more clear, so that it's not just a one-sided journey, but really a full journey of self-exploration as well as interaction with the world.
Yes, a holistic experience, which what Tantra is all about, bringing wholeness to what you do. So it's not just one aspect of your life that you just do your thing and you go back to the real world, but it's actually connecting everything so you can see how your kink relates to your work, to your relationship, to your inner harmony, to your emotions, to everything. So it becomes a really beautiful experience. And I discovered it myself. I was driven by desire for power as a Russian woman. As I said, I was very like much being like calm and submissive, but I wanted to have power. So, but then if you're just driven by power, it can be easily be misused, misunderstood. I definitely had addiction to power. I wanted more of it. I want to give more and more and more. And this idea of more never brings us to good places, as I've noticed in any realms of life, which is driven by desire to get more and more, like in relationship, get more from this person, and work, make more money, more success, more power, more. And it seems like a very common trend in our consumerist society, but I really like to break this and just bring, hey, but there is so much more in the subtle things. Hey, let's have a look here. Look, there's so much beauty. Like, I find tremendous inspiration to share this with the world.
Yeah, I've really, that really resonates with me. Like, connection is very important, and not having more, because it's a black hole, that more, right? You fill it, and you still have to keep filling it, right? And when we can move away from that of feeling really secure and feel the love from ourselves too, and knowing that we're enough without needing or buying or getting or feeling all these other things, that we can be at peace with ourselves and we are enough, and the love that we have for ourselves and the unity of the world and different things, that can be so freeing, right? Not needing all these other things. You know, you can want, it's nice to want, but I think a lot of times we feel like we need all these things when we don't. Right?
Yeah, it's a very anxious state of being when you are driven by a strong need, and it's just like you said, it's the hole that never gets fully filled. You just keep on throwing more pleasures, more this, until you burn out. And I've been there so much. So I find a way out.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people don't always want to talk about it, especially people who are BDSM providers, who are pro-doms. It's not all positive. It really isn't. You know, being a pro-dom, there are downsides. There are the downsides of power, wanting more power, or there's the downside of some people get really addicted to, like, you know, I need to see a dom, I need to do this, I need to do, and then it becomes really, there's this addiction, or some people, you're just being objectified the whole time, right? And it's not always super positive.
Yes, I saw a lot of suffering in this since I was in BDSM for so long. I definitely noticed how much suffering it brings. The idea that I have like an itch and I want to keep scratching it. I want to keep scratching, and it's really brings suffering to both partners. Like, for example, someone has a foot fetish, and it's a great, amazing thing to have. Why not explore a foot of another person? Beautiful person will enjoy. Like, wow, my feet is being worshipped, massaged. That's great. But then when the addiction comes in, it's like then it's can turn in the opposite realm. I just need more of your feet, more of your feet, more of your feet, more often, more intensity. And then the person feels objectified. But am I only your feet? I'm much more than that. I'm not only my feet. I want to be more to you than that. And it's really easy to get trapped in this pursuit of more desire, more pleasure, and have a disconnection with the person. So it's for me, the idea is that we're not denying certain kink or fetish. We are exploring it, but we want to do it with mindfulness, so we don't get stuck in this need for more. And this need for more is not only in kinky world, generally relationship. How often relationships break because we need more of our partner, and the partner cannot give. Like, I cannot give you more if I'm still not enough.
Giving you everything.
Yeah. I gave you everything, and I'm still not enough for you. And this is it. This is how relationships often break, because someone feels like, I still need more of you. I still need more. And it's like, I feel like it's either a spiritual pursuit or kinky pursuit. If I can bring somebody to a place where they understand that this is where I am right now is enough, I need nothing else, then it's like, wow, I feel like I've succeeded. It feels like a really great place to be. And I want our BDSM kinky play, whatever we do in our bedroom, to have this kind of taste of celebration of what we have right now, instead of the desire. And our normal sexuality, it's like very, men, for example, are not educated on sex in general. They watch porn, and then like you feel like, okay, I just need to get as much I can from this person, and I can have an orgasm, and this is what I want. And then you kind of have this driver, like, I want this, I want more, I want. But like, how can we just embrace each other and kind of freeze for a moment, and hey, this is perfect, this is enough, this is the perfect place to be. And I feel like it's really I really wish we can have this kind of education in all realms of life, where we can kind of come to this wholeness, completeness where we are, instead of trying to get more.
Yeah, I really agree with you there. I do want you to explain one word just for our audience, because as you know, when people hear the word tantric, right, they think of tantric sex, right? They think of a very specific thing. So please explain that to our audience and what your meaning is, and what the spiritual meaning and the bigger meaning, so people understand the difference, right?
Yeah. Tantra seems to be a very trendy word. It's true these days, and it's definitely in the Western world. It's so connected to sexuality, which is great. Why not explore tantric sexuality? But Tantra is so much bigger than that. So in a very original way, as I mentioned, the Sanskrit word Tantra means woven together. And it's about connecting our spiritual world with the reality that where we live in as human beings. So in traditional like spiritual path, I was exploring Eastern spirituality a lot. So Buddhism and Hinduism, I spent a lot of time in Asia, but you can definitely find resonance in other like mysticism and spiritual paths out there. That there is a tendency to escape the world and go only into this like higher realms, like just be in the prayer, just be in the meditation, just renounce the world, renounce desires, marriages, like all this, and just be in your cave and just explore more subtle spiritual realms. So this is one path, and Tantra is the alternative opportunity, which is more challenging. It's how can you stay rooted in your truth, in your center, in your divinity, and at the same time do all the things that world has to offer. And this is Tantra, about combining how can I do this mindfully, how can I put those two worlds together, stay centered in my being, in my truth, in my divinity, in my godly nature, and at the same time make love to someone, at the same time make money, at the same time travel. So how is this possible? So this is what the origin meaning of Tantra is about, having those this harmonious interaction of two worlds. And in Tantra, in Hinduism, for example, like Tantra is both in Buddhism and Hinduism, but in Hinduism, it's represented by the dance of Shiva and Shakti, these two deities. And Shiva represents, it's like a personification of the divine realm, of the emptiness, the void, the divine consciousness, what is beyond time and space. While Shakti is everything that exists in this material world, everything we exist in time, like all the action, everything that happens in time, all the objects, all the humans, all the beings, everything that lives in this world. And Tantra is represented by the embrace of those two. Sometimes they're dancing together, sometimes they're holding each other, sometimes they're making love to each other. So the idea of harmonious movement of those two forces, usually they're so disconnected, we are out of touch with this or out of touch with that. But if we bring those two together, it becomes a very harmonious dance. This is how art is created. Like when we have an artistic inspiration to create something, in the ideal case, it comes from the merging of those two worlds. You can see how you can grab a piece of divinity and put it on the paper. Like, how can I write in the way that it's actually the godliness is writing through me? How can I create an art where the godliness is creating the art through me? So becoming like, basically, if Tantra, if I put it very simply, the way I see it is when you allow the godliness to shine through you, whatever you do. And I feel like it's an incredibly beautiful path when you can be in touch with your divine nature, but love the world. Like there is nothing about you that I don't love. It's like the divinity can say to this imperfect world, which has aggression, violence, fear, all those things that seem to be not attractive, desire to hurt someone. Here we are. It's very unattractive, like considered in our morals. But then in the BDSM, in this realm, we can actually embrace it. Hey, but somebody wants to be heard, and it can be beautiful. Like it hurt you in the way that you wake up to your true nature, that you will feel so like in peace with yourself. So it's possible to hurt someone and honor this desire and feel connected to the divine realm. So this feels like the best short explanation of what I see Tantra and how it can be combined with BDSM worlds.
I think that's a wonderful explanation. And I think that's very helpful because, people see it in a very, singular way. But, that's what Tantra, having kind of Tantra sex or Tantric masturbation, right? It's not about the end goal of, it's all about orgasm. It's about connecting your body, mind, and soul in this act of sexuality without needing a final goal to get there, right? Enjoy the journey, combine all of it, blend it all, and not just focus on the final.
Well, generally, if you learn about the world from a very superficial social trends or what media tells you, then everything will be very superficial. Like BDSM will be 50 shades of gray, and Tantra will be orgasms, and this is all you know. And I feel like it's so great when you don't just believe labels, but actually explore, see, but there's more than that. Let me see what else out there. So it's great when we can bring more awareness to whatever practices we do, whatever our inspirations are.
Definitely. I want to open it up to questions from our audience members. We actually did get a question, but I think it's just a general question. But if you have any questions for those of you who are watching, please put them in your comment box. If I feel like the question is relative, and related to the conversation as well as respectful, I will bring it on screen. But someone asked, I'm sorry if this was asked, could you explain the challenges in intimacy coaching, BDSM play, and more in the current era of COVID where distance can and have hurt many in feeling alone?
Yeah, that's why I feel for me the idea of having an online course came on the right time, because in a way, it's really sad that these days we are so, like, I find it really sad that we have less opportunities to connect physically to other beings, and so many people are left alone. It's great if you're a couple or a friend circle kind of isolating, but what if you're isolating alone? And it's quite sad. But at the same time, we have a better opportunity to create great experiences on the screen. Like right now, I'm speaking to you on the screen. Maybe before COVID, I would be right at La Maison de Rouge speaking in person to you. But I don't feel like we're missing anything. I feel like we are just as connected to each other and to the audience around. So it's great that technology can bring a lot of new opportunities. And these days I'm doing much more online than before. And in a way, it's amazing. I can be in Bali and I can connect to somebody in the States, and I can have a really great experience and eye-to-eye contact on the screen, and I can share so many things on the screen. So of course, not everything can be substituted, but at the same time, there is a lot of opportunities to have deep, meaningful connections with with internet, and internet is evolving and expanding our opportunities. So many amazing courses online. I've been taking this, and last year I took so many great, incredible courses, like Celebrant course. I became a Celebrant last year. It's somebody who creates celebrations for different occasions of life, rituals and celebrations. And I become a certified Celebrant online, and it's been great. I connected to so many beings. I've learned so much. So I feel like this is the reality where we live in, and it's best to embrace and make the best out of it. So I feel like this is what I'm into these days. A lot of online coaching, a lot of online sharings, and this is where we are. Of course, I'm longing to do more in person, but I feel like we can get a lot out of this new reality.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really great opportunity to take these courses, read books, listen to podcasts, to really learn more about yourself and what you want, and maybe ask those deeper questions that sometimes we're too busy to ask ourselves because we're going out, hanging out with friends, going to dinner, do this, do that. That sometimes life has all these distractions, and this time it's simplified it where you're like at home, use the internet in a way that is not about taking other people down, but use it to learn about yourself, to learn other perspectives, to take courses, to hear people talk. Like I've been doing a lot of that, watching people do interviews and listening to podcasts and listening to audiobooks, and just really trying to connect with myself more and discover more and look at different perspectives. So this is a really great opportunity for that.
Exactly.
We have another question. It says, would you please share more information about what you describe on your site as a certified death doula and how spirituality is involved with that?
Yes.
Is fetish involved? BDSM? ?
So certified death doula, for me, it's definitely connected to what I've doing before in BDSM realm, which is interesting because death doula is somebody who can guide someone harmoniously on their final journey. And I don't have a ton of experience with that because I became certified a little over a year ago, and I did some explorations in this realm, but I didn't have that much experience yet. And I'm really looking forward because I feel like our final journey is the most powerful and important, and can be really beautiful if we bring proper awareness to this realm. But the way it's BDSM fetish involved, well, in a way that's the ritual involved, the mindfulness, the awareness is involved, the connection, the active listening, the right kind of questions, the right kind of presence that you're holding, like just somebody who knows that will die if you hold them from behind with the proper kind of like embrace them in the proper kind of attitude, the proper attention, the proper intention, can create a giant difference in how comfortably they can feel in the final journey. But I feel like it's a giant topic that I cannot go fully into it. But the commonality between all the practices as I do is vulnerability. How can you guide someone in the vulnerable places where they are no longer in control? They're no longer playing a classic role that they play, but actually letting go, like taking shedding all the layers of who they are and allowing themselves to be really raw, to be really human, to be really vulnerable, to be emotional. So this is the underlying flow of all the practices that I do, and death doula is one of them. It's like the ultimate vulnerability journey that we're all going to have, and it's so important for us to be mindful and to be aware and to prepare for this final journey. So this is something that I feel strong inclination to go deeper as soon as there are a little bit less restrictions there. But yes, this is all about vulnerability and how we can embrace it. How can we be friends with our vulnerable human side?
Yeah, I've always been very, like, death has always been a very interesting subject that I've always had a lot of curiosity on. Like, I think as a kid, I was a bit morbid. I would always read about death things and ceremonies, and every culture celebrates death differently. And some do it with a lot of distance, and some do it with so much love and care and ritual and celebration, and kind of moving that being and that soul onto the next level. And I think like, I think this certification, and eventually if you have more experience in it, I think is going to be really amazing, because I really believe in like death doulas and having someone help you, kind of guide you through that, where it feels less alone.
Yes, and there are organizations that offer certification, and they offer groups where you can connect on this topic. So INELDA is the one where I got my certification in San Francisco, but there are so many others. And I feel like anybody, like even if you're not planning to make it your profession, can benefit from learning more about this. It really expands your horizons. And when you know how to die right, you know how to live right. This was my biggest discovery. You don't have to be at your deathbed to have the journey into your vulnerable places and fall apart and feel like you're dying. You can actually experience it and get so much benefit. Like, you don't have to be at your deathbed to recognize, hey, I wish I lived my life differently. No, you can actually reenact this experience right now and then make a discovery that, hey, I wish I lived my life like this. And then you can still have time to change your life. So this is also my future goal, is to offer people the dying before dying journeys, when you can have an opportunity to have near-death experience and really reconsider your choices in life and see if you've been doing something from the wrong angle, and actually you can still have a chance to do it differently.
Yeah, that's very powerful, really powerful. We did have a very good question, very practical question. How do you get someone in a spiritual state through rope bondage? I guess maybe more general, if you want to answer that. Like, everyone is different, of course.
Yes. So this reminded me that in 3 weeks or so, I will be having a facilitator. I'm co-joining a facilitators training in Austin, where different healers, there will be 3 of us, teaching other healers or other aspiring healers or coaches, whatever you want to call it, to help facilitate altered state of consciousness journey. And one of the healers is the ayahuasca shaman, another one is NLP and hypnotherapist, and me, the rope enthusiast. So the 3 of us will be showing how it's actually possible to offer a journey into altered states of consciousness using different tools. And I felt so super inspired to share it. And of course, it made me think, because before it was an intuitive act. I'm taking the rope and I'm taking someone on a journey. And I learned it more intuitively because of my whole lifestyle around rituals and spirituality, altered states of consciousness journey. For me, it came very intuitively through just lots of practice and the proper intention. But there are actually certain steps that you can take in order to induce the state of the altered state of consciousness. And I believe that it will take me much longer to describe, but to give a really brief answer, how do you do it, is by staying present. This would be the biggest answer, is like by actually embracing this spiritual state of being, which is simple, by just simply being present and in touch with who you are. And from this place of being, you guide somebody in this similar state of being, like inviting somebody on board. Here I am, present, in touch with my breath, in touch with my body, accepting my emotion, accepting what I'm feeling. Would you join this ride? And then you put the rope on the exhale, and you kind of like invite them inward. Join me, come here. So the intention and this spiritual state of being within yourself is the driver. This is the way to do it.
That's a really great answer. I think that was really great. And also, if people want to experience that, they can reach out to you too. I want to take this as the last question, because I know we're a bit over, but I really love this question. So who are some of your biggest influences and inspirations for your work, writers, people, etc.?
Nice one. I have so many, and maybe I'm lucky that I'm not stuck with one guru, because I feel like they have different influences, and I'm definitely taking a lot from different people out there, and I'm putting them together in my work. So in the Shibari realm, I have Bodhisattva is one of my gurus, who was actually brought me into this realm because I was inspired by his sessions. But in the spiritual realm, I follow Muji. Muji is one of my gateways into the non-dual state. He brings the self-inquiry into your spiritual practice by asking, who am I? Who am I? And one of his teachers was Ramana Maharishi, who is one of the rather contemporary Indian sages. And he's like the one who is the most connected to self-inquiry, asking within yourself questions. Who am I? Who am I? Who is in? Who is, what is life? So all this self-inquiry was brought to me by Muji, but there are a few others. There is Ananta Kranti, who was also a dominatrix in the past before she officially became a guru. And she was the one who actually encouraged me to step into the self-exploration and spirituality in the BDSM world, because that was also her path. And I'm also really inspired by Osho practices. Osho has a lot of presence all over the world, very bad reputations and some very good in others. But for me, his meditations are very active. Like, he's not just sitting quietly. There are lots of different dynamic meditations that are offered by Osho, which are designed to connect with your emotional states and embrace your shadow. So a lot of shadow work that I'm doing is inspired by Osho. But these are just to name a few. I definitely have lots of other inspirations, and we explore them also in the course, because I wanted to connect people with those amazing people who can bring more clarity to your BDSM practices, like Jack Morin and Mendel and Jung. Jung is a giant inspiration for shadow work for me, so we explore Jung in the course. So yeah, just mentioned a few, but these are the ones that I feel a lot of inspiration towards. Alan Watts, Eckhart Tolle, also some of my amazing teachers. Whether I met them or not, I definitely take a lot of wisdom from Alan Watts and Eckhart Tolle.
Awesome. I think that was really beautiful. So for all of you who are watching and will be watching, to sign up for the online courses, to follow Rina, please see below. All the information has been scrolling by. Your website, your Instagram for yourself and for your new work. And online courses as well as your Twitter. So please follow. Please, if you're interested, sign up for courses as well. And I know that you're continuing to work on different projects as well. Is there any that you want to let anybody know about before we end our conversation today, Rina?
I feel like I've shared quite enough, and yes, the trip to Austin is something that is coming for me on the March 10th, where I will be having sessions, journeys, as well as the retreat for healers and coaches, where they can learn the art of bringing someone in deeper states with other facilitators. Cool. And I also practice yoni massages, which is the tantric massage for women, how to bring women in touch with their shadow, but also embrace the orgasmic potential. I feel those two go well together. The more shadow we embrace as women, the more orgasmic we become. And I really feel like women should know they should not repress their womanhood. They should embrace it, and then they become more alive and orgasmic. This has been my past. So I'm taking women on tantric journeys into themselves. And finally, I'm writing a book, which is coming close to the completion. And it's going to be about the healing journey as a Domme. So that will be a lot about different amazing situations that are very universal that happened to me. And that's going to be, the idea is the transformation, through transformation, is allowing someone to dive into their own transformative potential through the story of my journey. So the book is coming live soon. And yes, I feel like
that's amazing.
I've shared a lot about what I offer, and this is a never-ending journey. So I love to continue evolving.
Yeah. Congratulations on the upcoming book. That's always a lot of work. And, getting, your program and your new website and everything, it looks really beautiful. So thank you for sharing with us and sharing your evolution and where you are now. I think it really resonates for a lot of people, as well as they can see that there's so many ways to interact with kink and BDSM and their sexuality and their spirituality. And it's much more, intertwined than we sometimes think. So that's really, thank you for sharing that. for all of you who do want to support us here at La Maison de Rouge, because we are a 2-woman show. Dia and I, we work very hard in having these conversations, inviting our guests, putting these programs together for people to learn and hear the stories and hopefully connect. Please join us down below at our Patreon. If you do want to support us, there's really great memberships for those of you. So it is a 2-way street. When you become a patron, you do get some stuff in return. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rina, for joining us all the way from Bali. And have a good night and a good morning for those who have joined in your part of the world.
Well, thank you so much for having me and asking me all the interesting questions. I'm really inspired to speak with you and looking forward to see you one day back in New York.
Yes, very soon, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.